he treated the Sudanese like they are his, not even subjects, less than that. And his government is full of people who regularly would insult the people in public. One of his defining policies is divide and rule. There was a copying and imitation of the old British system. Foreign powers came, they formed something called the Quartet, 4 countries, US, UK, UAE and Saudi Arabia. And they brought in the African Union and Ethiopia and the UN and others, but really the important ones are these 4. And they acted as the mediators and facilitators, brought both sides together and got them to compromise.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Club podcast. And I am your host, Saliko Abu Isa. The situation in Sudan, it's been a number of years now, which is another genocide I was saying is going on. Sudan, a lot of people say that is the forgotten conflict. Not many people have been talking about it. And it's been going on for a number of years. It's not something which is new. And this is something which has been coming up, I'm pretty sure, on everybody's live feeds and, everybody's social media pages recently. And today, alhamdulillah, we got brother Yusuf Abu Sinan, who's come from London, who is a political analyst. He's half Sudanese. He's also the host and presenter of the Muslim Opinion, who will be sharing his views and his opinions on the current situation and giving us a bit more insight on what's been going on in Sudan. Assalamu alaikum, brother Yusuf. How are you?
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Jazakallah khair for coming down. Alhamdulillah, I'm good. Jazakallah khair. I really appreciate you coming down from London, to for our podcast. For our viewers and for our listeners, give us a bit of background on yourself. Who is Yusuf Abu Sinan?
Okay, I don't really like talking about myself, to be honest. But,
that's all right. Don't worry.
Guess what's relevant here? I was born and bred in the UK. I used to visit Sudan almost every year, sometimes every 2 years, and stay there for a few months. My mother's Sudanese. I went to school there for a time in primary, and I was involved in political activism in Sudan. Closer to the revolution's time.
Okay.
Before, during, and after.
Are you talking about the current revolution or the previous one?
I'm not old enough for the previous one. I'm not old enough for the previous revolution.
The first revolution happened, it was in 2019, I believe, when they ousted.
Okay, you asked about the war. No, so there's the revolution in 2019, and there's the current war that's happening as a consequence of that revolution.
So were you there before 2019 or after?
Yeah.
Before
I thought you were talking about, so the last revolution was like 1986 or something.
No, not there. Very nice. I don't think I was even born then.
1985, I think. That's a while back. We started the Muslim Opinion, online media platform that's trying to focus on highlighting what's the Muslim view on certain issues.
Okay.
And we started focusing on ideas which there's a clear Muslim view as opposed to others. And eventually, inshallah, we're looking to show the more diverse Muslim opinions where, Islam allows variation. But it's important, I think, in political issues that there's not a lot of people, at least in the English language, who provide the Islamic viewpoint on current affairs. That's really dominated by non-Muslims, right-wingers, left-wingers. So there's a need for that. And
definitely.
We are one Ummah, and all of the Ummah's issues are our issues. That's what the Muslims' opinions are about. And I happen to be half Sudanese and got a stronger connection to Sudan. So a lot of people want me now to talk about Sudan.
No, it's good because, you know what, I'll be honest with you, even though I know bits and bobs about Sudan, the reality is, I'm pretty sure with a lot of people as well, we're quite ignorant with the whole situation in Sudan. And it's important for us, and like you mentioned that, as Muslims, we should be addressing these issues, and we should be, these issues should be close to our heart, no matter where those issues are and where our brothers and sisters are being oppressed around the world. So it's important for us so we are informed about what's going on, and then what is that we can do and how is that we can, aid and help that situation. So honestly, I really appreciate you coming down, and I'm sure our guests, our viewers and listeners would appreciate this as well, because not many people know about the conflict in Sudan, what's actually happened, where did it start from, and so on and so forth. So just a bit of background in itself. You said you went to school in Sudan. How was it? How was that like? How old were you when you were in school in Sudan? Do you remember it?
Yeah, it's foggy because primary school is a while ago.
Oh, was it primary school?
Yeah,
Right.
I had 2 stints because we were based in the UK, but there were 2, as far as I remember, because there may have been others which I wasn't aware of, but 2 attempts by my parents to like make hijrah to Sudan, and it was difficult for my father because Sudan's very difficult legally, bureaucratically, giving out residencies to foreigners, even through marriage. It was difficult. Couldn't really settle there as a family, so we ended up coming back to the UK. But yeah, 2 different stints. Primary school. I don't know what to compare it to be honest, because I was homeschooled here in the UK, so I didn't go to school in the UK, so I'm not really sure what I'm comparing it to. But it was interesting, I guess. It was interesting. It was a lot more. It was far more there was an Islamic environment. Like over here in the UK, I was in an Islamic school for a while as well when I was young. That was one of those. It was homeschooling first, and then it transformed into a proper school, and like now it is monitored by Ofsted, etc. So if I was comparing it to that, the school in Sudan, compared to the Islamic school here, I felt far more Islamic there. The environment, the atmosphere. I'm not knocking the schools here and the effort people put into it, but I think perhaps it's not, because you can't detach it from the environment as well of the society itself. So even like in the Islamic school, you say, okay, in the school, the teachers will try to maintain an Islamic atmosphere and teach Islamic subjects, but then the kids will bring their own baggage from outside, isn't it? And so in Sudan, it felt that it felt more at home. Even though most of my life has been in the UK, I always still felt more at home in Sudan. It is tough economically to live there. Even before the revolution, it was tough economically to live there. And later on, security-wise, but and obviously the bureaucratic legal side, it was difficult to settle there, but it still felt more home than here.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. No, Jazakallah khair for that insight. So for someone like me, I don't really know much about Sudan. Give us a bit of history. Like, how did Islam come to Sudan?
The Khilafah of Uthman bin Affan, radiallahu anhu. So that's when, during his time, the first mosque was built in what is now Sudan. Because I'm sure you know, all modern Muslim countries are post-colonial, isn't it? They're all constructs.
We're talking about was pre-Sykes-Picot agreement.
Yes, pre-Sykes-Picot. Sudan is not this country. Sudan is a region that's far bigger. Sudan is a region that goes from the east of Africa, i.e. where Sudan is today, between Egypt and Ethiopia, and it goes westwards all the way to the Senegal. All of that is Sudan. Historically. So, people at his time, Mansa Musa.
Yes.
Yeah, so people at his time would have said, oh, the Sultan from Sudan. That's how they would have referred to him, because Sudan is a big region, not a nation state. There is a nation state today called Sudan. Sudan just means land of the blacks.
Is that what it actually means? Serious?
Yeah, it's like the land of the blacks. That's all it means.
But Sudanese is not like, you go parts of Sudan, but not everyone's black. Like, I'm sure you got certain parts of Sudan where they're very like fair-skinned and stuff like that, or is it?
Oh, like my family. So those who are from like direct Arab tribes, like my family, yes, some of us are fair-skinned, but mixed really. The vast majority of Sudanese are black.
Okay.
There's a lot of Arabized tribes, and so they consider themselves Arab, but they didn't migrate they're like the original Arab tribes. They picked up the Arabic language, married in, and they over time shed any other culture they had. So they identify themselves as Arabs, and they have some lineage connected to Arab tribes. So most Sudanese are like that in the north, center, and east of Sudan. But then when you go to the south and the center and the west, majority are not Arab, as in they're direct descendants or part of tribes who do not identify as Arab tribes. If you like, the color of most Sudanese is black. Vast majority is black.
Okay.
But in terms of, I mean, when you come from the west, sometimes you just say, oh, they're all the same kind of thing, because they're all black. Or you go to China and say, oh, they're all the same kind of thing.
Course,
But when you're there and you grow up there, then you know the differences. There's so many different people. There are the Arabs, including both like original Arabs and the Arabized. And you have the Zaghawa and theFor. You have the Hausa and the Fulani. The Hausa are famously from Nigeria, but they also native to Sudan. And the Fulani are like native to Mali, Senegal, but they're also native to Sudan as well, because this was one region. People always used to move. There's people of Moroccan heritage there. There's the Nilotic people of the south in Kordofan, the Nuba Mountains. There's a lot of variation in Sudan. Ethnically, very, very diverse. Very diverse. It's on the Hajj route as well. The Hajj route. Yeah, you had to go through Sudan, modern day Sudan, to the ports to cross over to Jeddah and go Mecca. So many people from across Africa, they stayed in Sudan. They didn't just not everyone went back home. So they would come, go Hajj, and then they'll come back and they'll stay. So it's very where the nation state sits today, that's called Sudan. It's a very diverse area. The first entrance of Islam was during the Khilafah of Uthman bin Affan.
So it's quite early on, wasn't it then?
Yeah, but it really Islamized later, because the Coptic Christians in the north of what is today Sudan, they maintained a very strong presence, and they had their own states which resisted the expansion of Islam for a long time. So it's actually those, if you want to call them migratory Sudanese, I'm using the old Sudanese term, from what is today Mauritania, Mali, Niger, Chad, Senegal, these areas. They're the ones who really brought Islam to Sudan. So it's almost like, if you can visualize the map of Sudan, the very north became Muslim during the Khilafah of Uthman, and Islam was slowly expanding. And then later, a few centuries later, when that western part of Africa became Muslim, and Islam expanded back this way. So the Christians ended up between Muslims in the north, Muslims in the south. And eventually their states collapsed and they were absorbed, and over time, most of them converted to Islam as well.
Okay.
So there still is a Coptic minority in Sudan. I would say they, in what is left of Sudan after the separation of the south, they are the biggest non-Muslim minority, and they're mainly in northern parts and in the capital city. Obviously, Islam doesn't eliminate the other religions, but I think 90-something% of Sudan is Muslim, 98% is Muslim.
So I'm assuming that the Christians, they've lived there for hundreds and thousands of years.
They were from before Islam.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah. So it shows that generally the Muslims and the Christians, they lived generally together for hundreds and thousands of years during that time.
Yeah, obviously there were political conflicts between the kingdoms of the Christians and Muslim sultanates, but
day to day, generally.
Once that conflict ended, they just became part of the society like everyone else.
Alhamdulillah, that's good then. So in terms of fast forwarding now, modern day kind of conflict, maybe give us the revolution, what happened 2019, because then I'm sure this kind of situation comes from that.
Yes.
So if you can give us a bit of background on that, and then we can just go into the RSF and the current day situation.
Yeah. So definitely, to understand the current war that's happening in Sudan that began in April 2023, we need to understand the revolution in 2019. To understand the revolution of 2019, you'll need to understand what life was like before that.
Okay.
As well.
If you can give us a brief.
So I'll be as brief as possible, because I could draw a line straight back to the British Empire during its colonial era of Sudan. I can draw a line back there and say this is where it began, and I can show you how it gets here. But I'll leave that, because there'll be too much to go through. What's important is the the regime that came to power in 1989, the regime of Omar al-Bashir,
Yes, Omar Bashir. Yeah.
and that ruled the country for 30 years. That regime, it's, I would say, one of its most defining policies, even though it wasn't mentioned anywhere really, one of its defining policies is divide and rule. There was a copying, an imitation of the old British system. And it was divide and rule on many levels. So to protect himself, he came into power through a coalition of Islamic parties or Islamic-leaning parties. So they were supposed to be the Islamic guys in Sudan. But then to consolidate himself, he divided them between those who support him, those who support others. And then he divided at the same time, like in the media, they would highlight the secularists and the liberals, even if they were small in number, because then that would act like another divide, which is, but then all the Muslims, all the Islamic guys, we have to stick together against these guys. We also have to stick together while I'm the guy in charge, kind of thing. So he played divide and rule a lot, and he also played divide and rule between the Muslims and the Christians of South Sudan, amongst others. So whenever there was issues of neglect and lack of investment or discrimination that people in the South complained about, the way him and his people would spin it is, no, they hate Islam, these Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes the people think, oh yeah, well then we all stick together against those Christians. And that would make the Christians themselves feel, all these Arab Muslims in the north, they're racist towards us, and they also hate our religion. And so there were so many fault lines in Sudan which he didn't try to manage or solve or turn them into a strength. He kept exacerbating them because it kept everyone focused on each other. And seeing him always presenting himself as the lesser evil. He's always the lesser evil. He is evil, but he's the lesser evil. For everyone, he's always the lesser evil. And one of the fault lines that he exploited a lot and really became bloody and is connected to what we're talking about today is ethnic divisions between the tribes in the west of Sudan, i.e. this area called Darfur. Darfur is very mixed in itself, hugely mixed in its population. It's named after the four people, Darfur, the land of the four. But the four are not the majority themselves, are the majority. There's others who number more than them. And there are also the nomad Arab tribes as well. So the nomadic Arab tribes, their lifestyle is nomadic. They seasonally move north to south or east to west with their herds, and they used to get into conflict a lot with the local tribes who are sedentary. They agricultural. Yeah, they have villages and they have farms and they live permanently on the land. And these guys are always coming in and out. And sometimes there will be land clashes over the land and the usage and herding. This is old. It's not the end of the world. It's something which a government exists to manage and give these people the right and these people the right. That's what governments exist. But no, that's not Bashir's style. Bashir's style is let them fight each other. Because then that way, everyone who was complaining in the West about, again, same issues, there's neglect, there's no infrastructure, we don't have the hospitals, and we have to travel. If someone's really unwell or someone needs a good education, you all have to travel to the capital city, Khartoum, and that's hours. And it's not like here. It's not like you got service stations on the way or something. Yeah, it's difficult. So instead of becoming a responsible government and actually developing the country, and instead focusing wealth amongst him and his own small crowd of people, is, you know what, if they actually fight each other, not my problem.
Yeah.
Then they won't be focused on me.
It's the same old story, isn't it, throughout the whole of the Muslim lands. Post-Sykes-Picot agreement, these borders that divided our lands and divided our nations, you had puppet dictators instilled in those lands, and they were there to, keep the Western hegemony in our lands. And unfortunately, these guys, they didn't really care about the people, whether they were Muslims, Jews, or Christians. All they cared about was themselves and their pockets, their family, and then they lined up their pockets while everybody else suffered. And unfortunately, that's been the thread from the Sykes-Picot Agreement and throughout the whole of our Muslim lands, unfortunately, since then.
Yeah. And the things with Bashir is that he was a very good, he was a rubbish statesman, very rubbish statesman, but a very good politician. If you know, if you get the difference between the two.
Yeah.
His words were silky, you could say. He was very good at talking. He was very good at sounding genuinely Islamic. And he's one of those guys which a lot of people were fooled by him, honestly. And perhaps if I was younger during his early days when there was economic boom, maybe I would have fell for it too. Actually, a lot of people give him a chance. You know, the country's actually doing well. The small stuff we'll get to it. You know? But things only got worse over time. And he's one of those guys who you really have to look at his actions and ignore his words. Sometimes, you know, politics, you have to look at what they say and what they do. But Bashir is one of the guys, really, I would say, forget everything he says.
And just
Forget everything he says. Look at his actions. If what he says matches his actions, then say, okay, makes sense, yeah. Okay, I accept that statement from him. Otherwise, if he just says something, he doesn't do it, you really have to ignore it. There's nothing, don't even assume there's an intent to do something. Ignore it. It's just words because he's good at playing public opinion.
This is exactly what the politicians do today.
Yeah, so this is the thing. Is everyone thought Bashir was advanced for Sudan, to be honest. I'll be honest. It's as if he was trained here or something. He's advanced. A lot of people assumed he was Islamic at the beginning because he said all the right things. He surrounded himself with people who looked like the right people. He made constitutional changes and brought laws, many of which actually never got implemented, but they were there on paper. You can say, look, Sudan has an Islamic constitution. But then his behavior was completely opposite. His actual policies were completely opposite to that. And one of his even on this thing you just mentioned, yeah, it's when he was removed from power and the presidential palace was stormed, people found like wads of cash, so much money. So I forget the number now, man. If I should have.
It's got to be in the millions.
Huh? Millions, millions, right? Just millions. But he had so the whole. For some people, his image only collapsed at that point because he was really good at maintaining his image and the Lion of Africa, they used to call him. He created this thing called the RSF. So to deal with in Darfur, to deal with rebels that came out of that situation of really government neglect and discrimination, they took up arms against the central government. Initially, a lot of them were reformist. There were lots of different movements in Darfur. But when this happens, foreign powers come in. They see a chance and they come in and they start funding people, arming people, securing some routes in. And then they use them as they're not actually interested in whatever these guys are fighting for. They just use them as leverage. So they use them as leverage against the Sudanese government for things they want the Sudanese government to do. And this is the thing sometimes when you say a lot of these Muslim countries, they just client states of America. The net result is yes, they are. The net result is yes, they are. They're not all, but the style is done and isn't the same. So it's not like, if I'm pick one, they have MBS Mohammed bin Salman is just a phone call away from, I don't know, Jared Kushner, and they have a personal relationship and there's a loyalty there to the USA. Or Asim Munir, head of Pakistani army. You can see these kind of people. There's as an individual, you can almost say this guy's an agent. Like the way he's so close to them. He's one of them, not one of us. But the USA doesn't do that to every country. Because some countries, they don't need to have a very good relationship, but they have levers, they have instruments they use to get that country to behave the way you want it to behave.
Yeah.
And Sudan was one of those countries, and they had so many levers against it. And the moment they find a new opportunity, they use more. So yes, net result, Sudan was actually a client state to the USA. forget everything Bashir said against it. Everything he said about how he's anti-American, anti-imperialist, and you really have to ignore all of that. And for some people, they still can't. A lot of Sudanese, they still can't because he was so good at that. But if you just close your ears, stop listening to what he said, just look at all his actions, look at everything he's been doing here, and there's a trend. So he created the RSF. The RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, were formed to deal with these rebels, because these rebels, they became more than just people who wanted reform. They became separatist rebels, people with a lot of arms who were endangering the positions of the Sudanese army and trying to carve a new country out in Darfur.
So the RSF, were they like a battalion? Were they like a militia group? You said Omar Bashir was the one who brought them together. Where were they from? Like, what were they initially?
So initially, they're a bunch of highway robbers.
Oh, were they? Oh, wow.
Yeah, who operated in the northern parts of Darfur near the Egyptian and Libyan borders, which is a route for like migrants would go through, trying to get to Europe, or for smuggling certain things. They're part of they're from a subgroup from within the Rizegat Arab tribe. So there's a big confederation of tribes called the Rizegat in the north of Darfur. And they have sub-clans, if you like, sub-clans. So there's 2 or 3 clans, I think 2 actually, who from amongst them, they had these guys who were active, just on the camels, robbing people. And they formed their own militias. And Bashir kind of got those militias or those gangs, and turned them into militia and armed them, and got them to fight the rebels in Darfur, and used them as in modern terms, you'd call them a paramilitary, an auxiliary force, an extra irregulars there who you don't have to organize and feed them and pay them the way you would have the regular army. Just give them money.
They do your dirty work, isn't it?
Yeah. And they called themselves Janjaweed at that time.
Janjaweed, what does that mean?
Janjaweed in the local dialect is jinn on horseback.
Jinn on horseback?
Yeah, devils on horseback is how they imagined themselves. And then he renamed them to RSF later in 2013, I think, to like formalize it and make it more look neater and bring them closer into the orbit of the actual Sudanese armed forces. And he brought the leader of the RSF close to him personally. His name is Muhammad Hamdan Dagalo, but he became known as Himeti.
Hameti, isn't he? Yes.
Yeah, Himeti, because there's 2 Muhammads in his name, so he becomes Hamid as a nickname. But Bashir used to call him Himayati, my protection.
No way.
So his nickname became Himati. It's like combining Hamid and Himayati together. He's Himati.
So basically, he was like his right-hand man. Any dirty work that he needed doing, he was the person that he got into.
Yeah, and and the idea was he would protect him from coups, because as the economy got worse, the movement against him from within the armed forces, because the armed forces run the country, he becomes weaker. Even if he plays public opinion very well, he's still susceptible to a military coup against him. That's how he came to power himself. So Hemeti was going to be his protection, and Hemeti was appearing with him in press conferences and stuff in the background, like as a personal guard kind of thing. Everyone knew that the RSF are here.
So then, fast forward, the revolutions happened. After the revolutions, Omar Bashir,
the economy is so bad. By 2019, it's so bad. Like, I'll give you an example. I always give this example, because I think it's easy to relate. This is what happened, but it's the week before the revolution. This is because of inflation that you'd get standard in Khartoum, in the capital city, for bread, round pieces of bread, about this size, 4 of them in a bag, for 1 Sudanese pound. And then within a week, it was you need £4 to buy 1.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So the economy was so bad, and it was going for a long time. And he even gave a speech once before that, a few years before, saying anyone who doesn't like us should lick his elbow. Yeah. So it's like, because like you can't lick your elbow, your tongue can't reach there. So, but the thing is, like, do that first, and then try to remove me. He treated the Sudanese like they are his, not even subjects, less than that. Yeah, and his government is full of people who regularly would insult the people in public. Yeah. So it was about the economy and it was about dignity. The revolution. People just finally had enough in 2019, and he was taken out by the army because he became a liability now. It was protect the regime or stick with this guy. No, get rid of this guy. We protect the regime. So they did. And because people weren't moving they had to sit in outside the military headquarters, the whole military council resigned. Basically his central government all resigned. But before resigning, they promoted an unknown commander up two promotions. So he became the highest ranking chief. He became the automatic chief of the army, automatic head of state, de facto. And then they left. So they handpicked the next guy. This guy is Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, head of the Sudanese armed forces, he made Hemeti his right-hand man. So he brought the RSF even closer. Hemeti was like a bodyguard for Bashir. Now for Burhan, he was de facto vice president. That's why. So and he brought the RSF into the capital from their camps in Darfur. Gave them lots of parts in the capital. He even withdrew some military divisions from the capital city because those guys could do a coup against him. Those guys are connected to the people of Khartoum, and everyone else who came to join the revolution, everyone's got family there. But the RSF don't. They are almost entirely from one tribe, like from a subgroup from one tribe, very far away. And their whole career in Darfur is burning down villages and killing people. That's what their job was. That's what they were doing. They weren't just fighting rebels. So, in order to end the revolution, there were liberal political parties and socialist political parties who formed a coalition to lead the revolution. They took over leading the revolution, and they became the actual leaders of the revolution. And they wanted to get into power, but the army didn't want to hand over power, and everyone wanted the army to go. Everyone wanted the army to go because
there was supposed to be this transitional government or something like that.
That's what that was a compromise. So the army wasn't budging, but they couldn't get people to go home, and the liberals couldn't get the army to budge. They had got no way to force the army out. The only leverage they have is the people. So to break the stalemate, foreign powers came. They formed something called the Quartet, 4 countries: US, UK, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. And they brought in the African Union and Ethiopia and the UN and others, but really the important ones are these 4. And they acted as the mediators and facilitators, brought both sides together and got them to compromise. Both sides compromise. So you won't be kicked out of power to the army, and you guys can come into power from the liberals. That's the transitional period you were talking about. So once both sides did that, then both sides colluded to end the revolution. And what they did was they set the RSF free. They closed the internet. They revoked Al Jazeera's license from coverage. There were just media blackout for a week, and the RSF just massacred people. And it was Ramadan, by the way. Following this period, when the lights came back on, the army came with a stupid excuse, just saying that there were drugs. Some people were selling drugs there, some gangs, and they mixed between the protesters, and we were chasing them, and unfortunately things just got out of hand. But anyway, that's what happened. And the liberals, they were now part of the government. They betrayed the people. And the funny thing about this transitional agreement is both sides, they just bought themselves time and plotting against the other side. So while the liberals were in power, they were trying their best to kick out as much of the army as they could from places in government. Now, I say the army because they can't obviously take the military positions, but the army is the old regime. So they had a political party that was just a civilian face for the army. So it was more like trying to get these guys out of their positions in the government. While the army was doing the CC thing, which is ruin the economy in the background, But then these guys will get blamed because he's the prime minister, not me. He's in charge.
Yeah, it gives you legitimacy to come in and take over anything.
Yeah. And it was telegraphed. You could see it because we saw it happen in Egypt and other places. This is what's happening. And then Allahumma salli Muhammad. They were competing with each other. So both of them saw that the only way there was gonna come a point where they were gonna come into conflict again. They're not gonna see out the transitional period. Yeah, they just bought themselves time to plot against each other and force the other one out because there was a stalemate. And each one has his foreign backer. But both sides realized if you really want to have dominance in Sudan, you need to have the USA on your side because the USA is the premier power. The USA is the one that holds all the cards. It has the cards of the rebels in that fort in the south. It has the cards of regional influence. It decides whether Saudi will give you aid or not, to invest in your economy, to fix it or not. They control that. It has the cards of security. Would it activate Ethiopia and other countries to cause border issues? The USA controls everything. And obviously it has agents within the Sudanese army. It's had that for a while. So both sides realized this is not going to end unless you have the USA on your side. So they were competing for US approval. I'll give you an example. The Liberals, one of their earliest policies. Remember, this is a country who just went through a revolution because the economy is in a very bad state. The economy is completely messed up. People can't find food for their kids. In the capital city, the richest part of the country, forget everything else that's been going through famine for a long time anyway. One of the earliest policies was to establish Sudan's first national women's football team.
So that was the main concern.
Why? Why is this important? Why is this? It's because they're trying to prove to the West that, look, we are like you and we can be women's rights and all that nonsense. That's what they were focused on. They changed the education curriculum, reduced the amount of hours that goes to Quran and fiqh in school, and started teaching Western Renaissance, the European Renaissance. So they were trying to de-Islamize the country and prove to the West we're uprooting the Islamist, the extremist influence. And we're changing Sudan for you. We're gonna de-Islamize Sudan for you. And then Burhan beat them. The head of the army completely defeated them. He went and met Netanyahu and shook his hand and signed the Abraham Accords. And proved to America, I'm more useful to you. And the USA definitely sided with the army. After that, it was like, for sure, they're sticking with the army, like they stuck with Sisi in Egypt. So when it came halfway point in this transitional period, where the head of the army was supposed to hand over his chairmanship role to one of these liberals, one of these civilian parties, he just put them in prison, cancelled the agreement, went back on his word, and he thought he got away with it. But he didn't, because he did it in a really stupid way. The USA didn't call it a coup. Everyone else did. But the USA didn't call it a coup because they preferred him now.
So this is Burhan.
They preferred him now. But, it looks bad for democracy and stuff like that. So they put pressure on him to release them, along with the UK and other countries, to release them and start again. We had to have a new transitional period. So forget the old. We're not going back to the old. That's cancelled now. We need a new one. The Quartet came back. 4 countries came back. And they organized, again, facilitated these two sides to talk to each other. Now the people are completely ignored. The people of Sudan are not involved in any of this anymore. There's no input. It's just between 2 factions on the ground, one military, one civilian, who are speaking, to be honest, being spoken for by foreign powers, who in their meetings and in their workshops, the workshops were run by the UN, but all of them were there. I don't have them with me right now, man. I can't even remember the names now. But some of the names of the people who were presenting in the workshops, you read their names, they're English and American names. They were being spoken on behalf of by these foreign powers. So the UK preferred the secular parties and wanted them more involved and reduce the influence of the military. And the USA for sure preferred the military by then. But it has to give lip service to democracy, and you have to bring some of the civilians into power and so on and so forth. So they came up with an agreement in December 2022, which wasn't really sitting well with the army. It sat really well with those civilians. And the army was thinking about how to cancel it for the next four months. How do we break this one? but they had to sign it under pressure. Without going into details, some of the issues within this agreement it was mainly about restructuring. They were going to restructure the army, change the ranks in it, bring Hemeti in officially so it becomes part of the regular army, which means
basically integrate the RSF
completely integrate
to the
RSF,
normal army, yeah.
which creates issues. One is, what ranks do these people have, and how does that corroborate to the soldiers in the army right now, and the officers in the army right now? What does Hemeti say? Because the guy thinks he's vice president. Where does he go in all of this? And actually, if he loses his militia, doesn't that mean he will also lose his power base? Because he semi-ran parts of Darfur by himself, and he controlled the gold mines, and he was selling all the gold to the UAE, and he had a contract with the EU, with the European Union, to stop migrants coming into Libya. So he had his own empire going on. If the militia is what was running it for him, if he loses that militia, he just becomes a regular officer in the army. He loses that. And for Rouhani, there was the issue of the whole restructuring the army and putting the head of the army under the authority of the prime minister or the civilian leadership, means the army loses its authority and control. Anyway, so it was bad for everyone on the military side, and they both didn't like it. I think Hemeti blamed Burhan for signing it, and he got encouraged by the USA, probably the night before, because he had a meeting with the Americans in Khartoum the night before he launched his attack on the 15th of April. So he got some sort of green light, some sort of encouragement, some sort of will look away, do something. And the USA gets what it wants.
Is this to remove Burhan?
That's what it looked like. Yeah, we don't. I would say we can't really be sure, but because they've got a very long-standing working relationship. It would be strange for it to go just for that, but it's also not past Hemeti that he may have grown too big for his boots and thought, you know what, maybe I am more important. And the signals he was getting from the Americans is, oh wait, maybe I can be the head of all of Sudan. But the USA was just using him, because what the USA got from this is now the political scene has shifted from initially it was people versus regime. Then it became liberal parties versus liberal parties versus military. And then you have the UK trying to influence some details which the USA didn't like. And now the political scene will shift to RSF versus army. Nothing else matters.
Yeah.
No one else is going to be talking about transitional government anymore, because now there's a war going on. So the war was launched. The agreement was cancelled in practice. A lot of those parties were at the beginning saying, stop fighting, come back to the agreement. But no one was listening to them anymore, because that's not important now. There's fighting on the streets. So the Americans got what they wanted, which is the agreement got cancelled and the army stays in power. They didn't get restructured and shoved underneath a civilian authority which they don't have full influence over. And then the war became something else. And the third week, the USA decided. I say decided because they said this war looks like it'll be protracted. It'll take a long time. And there cannot be a military solution. They said this in week 3. There can't be a military solution. You can't just have the army defeat the rebels or the other way around. The reason why I say these are decisions is because these are like prophecies. You can't know this at this time. This is what they wanted the outcome to be. So the USA withdrew all its diplomats from Khartoum, and then other European countries follow, because that's what they do. When America does that, then they make their own security assessment. If the USA leaves, then something big's going to happen, so we leave too. So they created a situation now on the ground where everyone felt, okay, this might be bigger than we initially thought. Because people on the ground, they were actually just living their normal lives. They will still go to school, people will still go to work, and then some people will get caught in crossfire between the RSF and the army.
But now it's gone to the stage where it's actually affecting
when everybody. They all left, then the army started to treat it more like a bigger issue. Because there wasn't like a clear even declaration when the war began. There's a new situation, the war, everyone stay at home, don't leave. No, it wasn't really like that. Which lends, in my opinion, more to the idea that this was unplanned. The spark was unplanned, and however it was going to play out wasn't planned. It may have been the case that Hemeti would attack, then Burhan defeats him, and then they'll have the excuse to say, well, then we have to go back to the drawing board. Things have changed. We need a new agreement, or that they will fight for a few weeks, and then the USA would come and say, we need to mediate between these two now, and come to a new agreement on how to run Sudan between these two, ignoring everyone else. That could have been how it went. But after week 3, it became clear that the USA decided this is going to be a long war. We're going to let it play for a very long time. And it's become clear over time that what they were going for is separating Darfur. They found an opportunity now, which is that as the war carries on, and as the RSF drag in more people in Darfur to their side, some forcibly, others under the allure of, oh, we're going to be the new ruling and important faction in Sudan, and people, so all the wealth will come to us now from their tribal base. And not all of the Rizigata are like that. I'm not saying that. That's also untrue. They would create a bigger militia, something that will not beat the Sudanese army, but could hold at least the Darfur region. And then when they create a de facto rulership and government there, then the USA will come in and say the only way to stop this conflict is through separating Darfur. The same way that was how they came to solve the civil war before.
With the splitting of South
North
Sudan.
and South, yes. Was, okay, the only way to stop this war is separation. And that's what the USA, they were trying to separate Sudan they were trying to take Darfur out since 2009. But they got busy with the Arab Spring. They had to put all the resources in the Arab Spring. So now they thought, this opportunity is opened up again, that we have someone who can actually end up forming an alternative government, an army in Darfur, who can actually use this war to take Darfur out of Sudan. But to do that, you need to beef up the RSF big time. They can't stand up to the Sudanese army. They can't. They don't have what the Sudanese army has.
They don't have the firepower because they were paramilitary.
They're paramilitary. They're light. They have pickup trucks and assault rifles. That is all they have. How are they going to stand up to an air force, to the tanks? How are they going to stand up to a very organized and trained military that was training them?
Yeah.
So someone else has to step in. Not the USA. They won't step in themselves because that will make them the enemy of the Sudanese. So because you need the RSF to make everyone in Sudan hate them.
So who do they
make
use
it palpable? Yeah, to make it acceptable to the public opinion for Darfur to be separated, to make it people start thinking, you know what, if they just go, let's just let them go, to make them think that they have to hate that other side. So if the USA is that other side, they're not going to accept that solution from you. You can't be there for the backer of the RSF in public. You need someone who doesn't really care about his reputation. Preferably somebody who has a good relationship with the RSF already, who already has business contracts, who's already hired them to kill people in Yemen before.
Who was this man? You got to tell us?
Yes, it's the UAE.
UAE. So this goes back. So you're saying that America is using the UAE to carry out their dirty work.
Yep.
So the UAE is the one who's funding the RSF.
So yeah, we don't know, I don't know, whether the USA invited the UAE to do this or the UAE naturally jumped at this because they already have a working relationship with the RSF.
Yeah, because
the RSF requested help.
You were saying that Hamibti already had. He was already giving gold to the UAE.
Yeah, the UAE had most of Sudan's gold already. They already had most of Sudan's gold through Hamibti. Anyway, and they used to have just before the war. I remember just before the war. Allahumma salli Muhammad. No, it was it December 22 or was it December 21? I can't remember. It was in December. In the area called Jabal Moon in Darfur, there are people that live there. It's not an Arab tribe, but they live near an area which could have gold in it, and they needed to go and I forget what do they call it when they go and investigate. What's the actual term?
Sorry, when they what?
When they go look for gold.
They're mining.
No, mining is once they know it's there. But anyway, it's like when they want to do the actual pre-investigation checks to check.
Okay, to see whether there's gold there.
Yeah. So the Emirati investors went there. They went there. They met with the governors of Darfur. And remember, RSF is still part of the government. So this was all the government was allowing it through. Yeah, they did all of that, and then after these Emiratis left, the moment they left, the RSF came in, killed off people in the village, emptied it out straight afterwards. So then the foreign companies could come and work there. This is the kind of stuff the RSF was doing. So whether the Americans invited the UAE in, or the RSF pled for help from the UAE, and we already have a relationship, or the UAE saw that it understood the American game, and so actually, if there's a new state in Darfur, we want to be the first to have a good relationship with it, make them indebted to us. Doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the USA is the great power. It's the plan of the USA, and the UAE is facilitating it, is making it work. So whether the USA invited them or just looked away, it doesn't matter, because I think that detail doesn't matter, because what matters is the USA allowed it to happen and encouraged it, because USA kept the UAE in the quartet, the 4 countries who keep coming back to manage the situation and comment on Sudan and till today, not last month, 2 months ago, September 2025, the USA decided that it's going to formalize this 4-country committee. It calls it the Quad. It's a formal committee now that the USA chairs, and part of it is the UAE, part of it is Saudi, and part of it is Egypt. They kicked the UK out because the UK is meddling too much, and brought Egypt in. So now this is a permanent committee. The USA knows exactly everything the UAE is doing, and they're keeping them there because the UAE is fulfilling a very important role, which is keeping the RSF maintained and on the ground and capable to fight back against the Sudanese army. And after they took al-Bashir in October, the capital city of Darfur. The capital city of Darfur. This is the final major city the RSF didn't capture. Now that you have the de facto situation, finally, there is the RSF. They have control of Darfur. They have their own. They've already set up an alternative government. Now we can move on to ceasefire and then negotiations, and we can start putting pressure, actually, on the RSF. We have to put pressure on the RSF now to stop them from thinking, we're on the roll now, and them trying to go further. We have to keep them here now. So you will see the USA start saying, throwing hints that the RSF has to stop, and we know who's backing them. And those are messages to the UAE to start reducing your support.
Yeah.
So and it's like the lever, you're controlling how far the RSF can move.
Can go, that's right.
Yeah.
So now what you're saying is they want to try to bring an end to this kind of war situation.
I don't think they're going to bring it. No, they're not going to.
Some kind of like pause or.
Yeah, so they'll manufacture a stalemate and keep it there for a while, probably, because they will need the Sudanese population, the public opinion to calm down and stop thinking about revenge and counterattack, because that's what everyone in Sudan is on right now. You need them to feel, okay, this has gone for too long. We can't beat them. And all of our problems come from there. Just let them go. That's where they want the public opinion to get to. So the USA will eventually get to that. But at the moment, it's monitoring the situation. Yeah. It has people in the Sudanese government who work for them, by the way. On the army side, they do. Especially in the media side. I mean, Burhan himself is basically a Zionist. And but they have to be careful what they do and what they say, because there's other people in the public and there's other people in the army who would not accept anything but revenge and counterattack and destroying the militia. So that's what the USA will play this game of balancing. It will say the stuff we want to hear.
Yeah.
And then wait and then throw some ideas in public and see what the public reaction is. And then decide its next move. And that's how they go. They're not in a rush to end the war. Yeah. But this is how they're going to play it. Okay. They will insist you cannot end this militarily. I.e., in other words, the army is not allowed to defeat the RSF. Because if that happens, then they lose their new state in Darfur. So that's the one thing you'll see consistently in what the USA is saying. Whatever they say about the RSF, they're never going to let the army defeat them. This will be consistent.
Okay. So, Jazakallah khair for, that detail, going through, the history of the conflict and bringing it back to today and the significance of all of it and the players, America, and the kind of splitting up of Sudan. So it's all starting to make sense now. And now, it brings us back to, the UAE, because what we're seeing now on, all our social media and even like everywhere I'm tuning into is like you're seeing, UAE are the ones who are like, supporting the RSF, they're funding the RSF, they're one of the key players. So they're the ones who are actually funding another genocide, Muslims killing Muslims. You know what I mean? So what's our take on like, how should we view this?
It's one of those tragedies where the West uses Muslims against Muslims. And, but it's not the first time, because like I said, the UAE, the war in Yemen, remember, Saudi launched a war in Yemen, and it made a coalition of Arab countries in it, and the UAE was their number 2 in it. The USA set up the command center for them, and was involved in the beginning of the war, and then sort of withdrew and said, "Okay, now you do it. Let's see where you go with this." Yeah. The UAE didn't fight on the ground. They can't fight on the ground. They barely have an army. So they hired the RSF. They paid the Sudanese army, hired the RSF, and brought them over to fight for them. So again, that was the same situation of Muslims killing Muslims. Muslims being hired to kill other Muslims. And for whose sake? Who benefits from dividing Yemen? Who benefits from dividing Sudan? Who is it?
It's not the Muslims, that's for sure.
So the Western imperial powers, like the USA at its head, it has this desire, the USA especially, to create blood borders, to redraw the Middle East based on ethnic and sectarian lines instead of the straight lines of Britain and France, the original straight lines. So they want to make the Muslim world smaller and weaker and full of hatred, people who fought each other and ended up splitting.
Yeah. This is something that they actually talk about openly, that they don't want to actually follow the Sykes-Picot Agreement anymore. They want to rebrand the whole, they want to basically restructure the map again. And split it into more smaller kind of tribes. So the plan to split Sudan, and they were talking about, the Greater Israel plan, and then even the splitting of Pakistan. So you're looking, this is not something new that they've actually been,
out, for example.
Balochistan and that area. So this is something that's actually been in the pipeline for about 20-30 years, where they've been talking about splitting the Muslim lands further. So you're saying this plays more into that role as well?
No, absolutely. That's at the highest level, at the level of the great powers, the ones who influence everyone else. This is what's going on, really. The interest of the UAE, for example, is to protect their throne. They reacted to all the other Arab Spring revolutions like this. Different styles are used, but that's basically it. Which is, it's about the Sudanese revolution, because remember, this is a continuation. I must stress, this is a continuation of the revolution. These events are caused by the fact that the Sudanese removed a client regime from power, or the head of the client regime from power, and the regime is clinging on, just holding on, just about power. That's what the UAE is doing. It's this destruction of the Sudanese revolution is the idea, and breaking up Sudan, which is a dangerous country for them, because it almost went independent. It's a big, powerful country, in a resourceful country in Africa. It almost went independent. Egypt almost went independent, so they had to completely put all their weight behind Sisi to squash the revolution. That's why the UAE, I don't know if you've seen this online, but you'll find some people say stuff like, "Oh no, the RSF are fighting Ikhwan."
There's another thing, like I was reading comments and people saying the RSF are good. Why are you going against the RSF?
No, that's the stuff the UAE told the RSF to say. Because that's how you win a Western audience.
It's the propaganda.
Say Ikhwan, just say Ikhwan. They're afraid of the people becoming independent, free, and they will eventually go in an Islamic direction, which inevitably means reunification of the Muslim world, which inevitably means an end to their thrones. So that's really what it is. The UAE is afraid of the Sudanese people.
SubhanAllah. So, in terms of bringing it back for us as Muslims, we're living here in the West. We're seeing this on social media. Palestine's been going on for a number of years. The genocide, in Palestine, alhamdulillah, the Ummah, they took a bold stance and they came out and they stood firm. And they came out, they protested, they retweeted, they shared, they did what they can to support our brothers and sisters in Palestine. So now for us living here in the West, what is it that me and you can do? What is it that us here living, whether it's in Birmingham, London, here in the UK, in the West, what is it that we can do to aid our brothers and sisters in Sudan? To bring light to this situation, whatever it may be. What is it? What should be our role in this?
So whenever someone asked me this, there's two answers I give. One is to help the Sudanese society heal from the shock of the war and the way it tore apart families and destroyed businesses, livelihood. It tore apart movements and political parties. It completely destroyed the society, and people are separated in different countries and displaced. It's the biggest displacement crisis in recorded history. Helping people financially does help people heal over time, because you relieve some of that mental burden as to how do I keep my family fed, and it's become easier now to help out, because it was very difficult at the beginning of the war. In fact, I I even have question marks on some charities who used to say we'll get stuff in Sudan at the beginning of the war. Like, I don't know how to get into Sudan. How are you getting to Sudan?
Yes,
At the beginning of the war, but it has become easier now, especially since there were 8 kitchens that opened up in Sudan which you can donate to. So it's run by Sudanese, and now there's more because there's areas now which have been freed from RSF control and they're under the control of the military right now. It's easier to get into them, and there are refugee camps in Chad, in Egypt, and other places. Or generally, if you know people who are Sudanese, you can just give them money. They will send it to people they know in Sudan. That's one, to help alleviate the financial issue. The other one is very important, I think, is raising awareness. Yeah, to be involved, if you really want to help the Sudanese, you have to expose what's really happening. Because whenever people just dismiss it as, oh, it's just a civil war, oh, it's just, it's just Africans killing each other. No, that always happens, isn't it? One is you distance yourselves and make yourself unavailable to help. 2, it's just not true. And you let the Americans dictate what they want. Because at the end of the day, the USA is not present there physically. They're not. What they're doing is socially engineering the Sudanese to get them to behave the way the USA wants us to behave. They want us to go through shock therapy, some people call it. It's just shock after shock after shock until we accept what we in origin would never have accepted. And they want us to get to a point where we just give up and say, okay, fine, whatever, just make this end. Just let them go. Let them have their own country. Or fine, leave the army in charge. It's better for us than whatever we had before, as in the war. We just did a revolution against them. So shock after shock after shock, they get us. They manufacture public opinion to come to it. So if you want to really make the American plan fail, is you have to fight them in public opinion. You have to expose what the UAE is doing. This is not just Sudanese killing each other. This is the foreign hands doing this. You have to expose that the USA is actually the one behind it. Otherwise, the USA is going to come in later on as a hero and say, "Oh, we stopped the UAE from doing this, and the RSF, we've stopped them now. Now they're not doing anything, and we've got both sides to sit down, and we've talked, and we've gone through so many difficult conversations, difficult conversations, and this was the solution that's best for everyone, and we will guarantee it, so that everyone can live in peace." But it's actually 2 separate countries now. Yeah. So you have to prevent the USA from coming in as a hero. They are just as complicit as the UAE. Probably more, in my opinion.
Because they're the ones who are pulling the strings, really and truly.
They were there before the RSF was created.
What else can we do? Is there anything else? So raise public awareness, exposing the plans of America and the UAE, and anything else? Supporting them financially.
So these are in terms of actions, is the supporting financially and raising awareness. Yeah, these are the 2 action points. The content of raising awareness is really the primary is exposing what this is really about, which is it's a proxy war. It's foreign powers destroying the Sudanese, tearing the Sudanese society apart in order to separate the four, and you have to expose who's doing this in the USA. Another point of content in terms of what we speak about would help us, which is to think about what's next, because a lot of Sudanese cannot think about what's next because of what's going on. And this is part of the whole shock therapy administering, which is that you don't give people a chance to think about how things should be. You don't give them a chance to think about what they can do. You don't let them breathe. And then you end up dictating what happens. But it would help us if not just raising awareness about the problems and the cause of the problems, but also what the solution is afterwards, because it's a crisis of politics in Sudan. There's no state. Really, there's no state. So it's about, we have to build something new. We have to build a new state. We have to build a new society. We need our own philosophy, our own ideology. If it's just going to be, we just do democracy, everyone says democracy, we just do democracy. Democracy has ruled in Sudan before. It has. It's completely failed. It can't. Western style nationalism, democracy, these do not work. Forget they're even haram in the first place. They don't even work in a very diverse society. They don't work in our countries. So building a vision for what should be the case, that conversation we must have as an ummah, not just as Sudanese. Because one of the biggest fundamental issues we have, colonial root cause, is nationalism and division. So you have just as much right as I do, to talk about the framework for solving Sudan's problems, which is the Quran and Sunnah, in as much as I do have for Bangladesh or Pakistan or somewhere else. And that will help the Sudanese start getting into the mode of, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Because if you start thinking about what's next, and we can build an Islamic society, a real one, not Bashir's one, we can then unite Egypt and Sudan.
Inshallah.
And if we can unite Egypt and Sudan, we can liberate Palestine. Yeah, and we can start that domino effect that the rulers of the UAE are so scared of, and trying their best to prevent from happening.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair, Brother Yusuf, for that insight, and for this whole discussion, and giving us the information and the things that are needed in order for us to understand what's going on in Sudan better. May Allah reward you for that. Any final messages or any final points that you want to mention to our listeners or the viewers before you go?
I would say, don't just keep your eyes on Sudan. Be involved in what's happening in Sudan. Sometimes the Sudanese act as if it's just their own problem. Part of that is because they've been abandoned for so long, they forgot what it feels like to be part of the Ummah.
Jazakallah khair for that, man. Brothers and sisters, those who are listening, subhanallah, man, just saying that, it hits deep. Honestly, it hits deep, that our brothers and sisters in Sudan feel like, they've been abandoned. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give them the strength and, liberate them and all our Muslim lands, and give us the ability to raise our voices and to come and, do what we can for our brothers and sisters in Sudan. Jazakallah khair again, Brother Yusuf, for today. And, thank to our viewers and our listeners, tune in to the podcast, like, share, subscribe to our channel, and please let us know what other kind of content you would like to discuss, and maybe inshallah we can get you back and we can do like a part 2, and maybe we can talk about what can we do going forward in terms of future for Sudan. Maybe that would be a good discussion to have as well, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.